Here we are again. Oh, look, the mic's going. Look at that. Studio quality in here, I tell you. Massive welcome to all of you 7,500 subscribers. And of course, first-time viewers as well, to the next in our series focusing on accessibility in cyber here on InfoSec Live, where we get to engage with and learn from the security industry's leadership. And today, it's a 30-minute session. I made the decision last week that I'm going to bring these sessions down to 45 minutes from an hour to do with the LinkedIn and the YouTube algorithm. I think it should help with views. But today I've had my 14-year-old son call who has said that he needs picking up. So it's a 30-minute session today. I'll try not to waffle and we'll make the most out of the time we have with Aliyu Yisa, who I'm joined with today, who is a cybersecurity professional with experience in software engineering and startup innovation. He's passionate about diversity, inclusion and accessibility, as reflected by his startup Fezzant and CyBlack, a non-profit he co-founded. Ali's committed to making cybersecurity learning, tooling and programs accessible and inclusive. And he was recently shortlisted, which is some achievement, as a finalist for the National Cyber Awards in the Cyber Diversity Award category. But before we bring him on and chat about how we can make cybersecurity more digitally accessible, for those new to the channel, I'm your host Simon Linstead, and by sharing stories and best practice over the last few months, it's led to over 100,000 views and of course 7,500 of you amazing subscribers. So a huge thank you for your engagement, and thanks to that support, it's also led to the launch of our in-person community-driven events here in the UK and the US, with a focus on knowledge sharing, networking, and definitely no sales pitches. I should have brought the QR code up here, but I'm being a bit slack today. There we go. Check out our events page for more information, with events planned for London in November and December, and a return to the US tour kicking off in early 2024 with New York, Miami, and now Austin and Tampa. But meanwhile, back in the community, we have study groups, mentor sessions, and regular networking sessions to help you raise your game in cybersecurity. So make sure you check out the community. Another QR code for you there if you haven't already. And let's not forget that without our event sponsors, whether online or in person, these insightful streams and indeed the community itself wouldn't be possible. So take a moment there to thank all the firms that have supported us in the past. And if you'd like to support the wider InfoSec Live community, or indeed just buy me a cheeky decaf coffee or a scone with some clotted cream or even baked beans, we do have a way you can show your appreciation right here on our YouTube channel, Jonathan, if you're watching. 3 tiers of membership allowing you to show your support in any way that you can. But whether you join or not, being here and engaging with our content is what really matters. So if you're watching this live, please subscribe. As we want to make these interactive as possible, make sure you do drop any questions in the chat and I'll bring them up as and when we can all the way through the stream. Okay, time for the show. Let's bring Aliyu on and find out how we can make cyber more digitally accessible.
Welcome.
Hi, Simon. Hi, Simon. Thanks for that.
I don't know if everyone else has got the same, but you've suddenly gone crackly in my ear. Could I get some feedback from people watching to see whether it's my earphone or whether it's Aliyu's microphone? Ironically, when Aliyu and I were chatting about 10 minutes ago, I told him how great his audio sounds. So, anyone got any feedback? Same. Yes, you sound a bit like, I don't think you're old enough to remember the Daleks, Aliyu, but you sound a little bit like one of Doctor Who's Daleks. Have you got...
Exterminate.
You wouldn't know how scarily that is. Have you got another microphone?
So it's the same. This is supposed to be my good mic, and it's the same one I had when you said my sound was good. I don't know what happened there. Just try to make it.
If I didn't have to pick my teenage son up later, I'd be getting one of my teenagers to help out with the tech problems right now, right?
Maybe I'll just use my laptop's default.
Okay. If not, you can try jumping back out and jumping back in again. Sometimes that makes a difference. And again, there we go. Look at that.
Is it better now?
Crystal clear. Perfect.
Nice.
let's try that again. So no longer a Dalek. Massive welcome, Aliyu. Excited to have you on to continue the discussions we've been having here on InfoSec Live. Originally with a friend of both of ours, Justin Merhoff, about accessibility in cybersecurity. But before we dig in, and I'm conscious that I'm going to try not to talk too much today, so I want to give you every opportunity to get your message across. So if you can metaphorically kick me and tell me to be quiet in the private chat if you need to, but if you could give our audience a bit of background about yourself and how you've ended up creating Fezzant.
Yeah, thank you very much for that intro. I'm really excited to be here, talking to the InfoSec Live community and everyone else that's going to be watching this. I like I said, I have a background in software engineering, so I really enjoy building stuff. And over the years, I kind of picked up an interest in cybersecurity. And then I eventually, made the switch, did a master's. And even though I have like a deeply technical background, I don't know, at some point I just started picking up an interest in the human elements, the human side of things, which I wasn't really good at. I had to learn a lot to even get to the point where I am today. I'm talking about accessibility, right?
I'll tell you this for nothing. You certainly wouldn't know that that's been a challenge for you from the two occasions that we've spoken now. I never would have known that.
Oh, thanks. I'll take that as a compliment. So, Feasant initially started out as we're trying to do gamified cybersecurity awareness or something like that. But we quickly found out that the market is super saturated. There are more than enough security awareness platforms, even doing what we thought would make us unique at that time. So we had to go back to the drawing board. We had to do lots of research, find out where exactly the gaps really are in cybersecurity awareness. So after a couple of pivots, last year we got on the NCSC for Startups program, and actually at that time when we were applying, we're looking at it from more of a cultural perspective, trying to cater for people from different backgrounds, because again, security awareness can be very it can be very limited in perspective. It might not be as diverse as you want it to be.
I think all the training I've seen has got a very narrow perspective. Yeah, I completely agree.
And I mean, even in the UK, right? Like I've heard people complain that a certain US company that the name starts with K,
doesn't end in 4.
It's too American. Yes, it ends in 4. I'm not going to say anything else. But we've heard complaints that
no one will work that out. You're fine.
yeah. I'm being very cryptic here. Yeah. So we've heard people complain that it's like too American in Britain, right? Like now think about how the UK is becoming more multicultural. There's people from lots of different backgrounds. How is it going to be for someone that's like from a totally different background? But the people at NCSC for Startups really grilled us. Like it was like Dragon's Den for cybersecurity, right? It's like we went through an interview stage. They still called us back for another meeting, and even after that meeting, they still sent questions through email. So it was like constantly answering questions. But the thing is, those questions got us thinking in like opened our perspective, like broadened our thinking to so many different things. And that was when we started thinking about, okay, maybe the biggest gap is in, being accessible and inclusive. So we started digging deeper, doing a lot more research, and we started seeing that, well, this problem is like way bigger than we thought it was. And then we started talking to people. I spoke to some people with different disabilities that have like totally given up on learning anything online. Um, and that really like that really got to me. It's like there's so much that technology has allowed us to do in terms of like helping people learn. And a lot of people are missing out of it, out on it because they have one disability or another. So read a couple of research papers. I'm going to send links to you so everyone can get access to those. That's kind of how we got to where we are now, and we decided to focus all our efforts on making cybersecurity accessible. In fact, like it goes way beyond education, right? We know security awareness has to be accessible. If it's not, people are missing out. They are not able to protect themselves the way everyone else would, and that could lead to disadvantages in the workplace. I'm saying comments about dialects again.
Yeah,
my sound.
I was just waiting for you to finish that sentence, but yeah, you have turned a little bit into a Dalek again.
Oh my God.
I mean, it sounds quite cool, if I'm honest. I quite like it. Hey, Mike, I just messaged you on LinkedIn, actually. Yeah, sorry, I can't jump on a call right now, but I am free. I've got to pick my son up from running training, then I'll be back. So if you want to have a catch up later, that'd be awesome.
So is my sound better now?
Perfect.
So
I like the Dalek bit personally. But.
So it's like it has nothing to do with the mic then, because I just changed the mic back to the other one where it was sounding like this before. So I don't know.
Well, I'm definitely not a technical person, so I don't know what the reason could be for that.
But yeah, that's kind of how we got to where we are, and that's where we're focusing all our efforts. I mean, in one of the talks I did at the NCSC for Startups program, I started presenting, and it got to a point where like my screen was completely blank, and I kept talking, and people thought, wait, is it a glitch? Why is it acting like there's something on the screen? And then I revealed my true intentions, like, well, there's actually nothing there. But I was just trying to make a point of what it feels like to like not be able to see and not have any alternatives, to be able to get the same information that everyone else.
And I think until we put ourselves in other people's shoes, we are very naive, blinkered to the challenges that other people have.
Exactly.
And unless you have disabilities or challenges yourself, or someone in your family. I mean, my late grandmother was registered blind, so I've had a small introduction to the challenges there, but we all need to take a little bit more time to think about and put ourselves in other people's shoes, right? Which is what I suppose the awareness portion of this is the all important part.
Exactly. And it's like that's what we've been trying to do with a lot of our campaigns, a lot of our like events that we go to. We try to like put people in other people's shoes, try to get them to like get a different perspective to things, because a lot of the time what causes these things are like assumptions that we make, limitations in our own experiences. That's what leads us to like make these decisions or design things or create things that are not accessible. But it's even bigger than that. Like tooling. I don't know if Justin spoke about this when you were talking to him, but security tools are generally not accessible, and I know there are a few exceptions, but it's at the point where someone who's blind that relies on a screen reader would find it very difficult to to use cybersecurity tools or to get into cybersecurity, because like, well, the only way for you to learn is to be able to use the tools. That's how you build skills.
One of my children were just calling me in my ear then. Sorry.
Oh.
I've just hung up. My 18-year-old was just ringing me, so that was awkward. I haven't put my thing on silent. Sorry.
All right, no worries. So I was just saying that the tooling also needs to be accessible, because if you're not able to use the tools, then you can't get in the industry. Like you can't even get to the point where you can be discriminated against. It's that bad. Like you can't apply to jobs if you can't use the tools, right? So that also needs to be fixed. I mean,
I tell you what, though, I've talked to, and I'm not going to name names here because I could get a court case against me, but I've spoke to 3 people in the last 2 weeks who've recently been on a boot camp here in the UK, all of whom had either some form of learning challenges. One had ADHD and autism, and the other had accessibility issues. They were told at the start of that boot camp that, oh yeah, we're accessible. In fact, they've even won awards this boot camp for their diversity and inclusion and their accessibility. And 2 of the 3 people had to leave that course halfway through after paying out an awful lot of money because they just weren't being accommodated. And I think the reason I'm saying that and interrupting you is because there's a lot of companies out there paying lip service to these subjects, but very few actually taking it seriously and doing anything about it, right?
Yes. I mean,
virtue
that's
signaling, I think they call it, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's just terrible. That's like, they should get sued for that. That's like false advertising. That's like the worst kind of false advertising you can get. But yeah, like just like you said, when we're doing our research initially, like we saw some companies that claimed they were doing accessible security awareness, but it's so the thing, something that I think is a red flag is like when people say we do accessibility, but they are not very specific about what they do and how they do it, and that's a red flag. Because I mean, we know privacy notices are mostly BS, right? It's like we take privacy very seriously. We care about your privacy. When you see that, that's like someone's about to make me give away data I don't want to give. That's exactly what's about to happen, right? It's kind of similar with accessibility, where you see accessibility statements saying we take accessibility very seriously, nothing specific about what they're doing, and it's like if you have any like requests, fill this form or send an email. It's like, if people have to ask for specific requirements, it means like
it's not accessible.
Really... Yeah.
I mean, exactly. we could all improve on that, though, right? And you and I had a conversation about this yesterday, and Justin and I have had a couple of conversations about it with regards to alt text in images. Now, the way that I post my shows is I use a platform called Restream, which is what you and I are on at the moment, and that will push through content to YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter, Twitch. The problem is only LinkedIn gives you the ability to add captions at that point. YouTube doesn't, because it's a live event through Restream. So that's a big problem from a Restream point of view. And when I set the event up on LinkedIn through Restream, I wasn't able to add any alt text to the image. So let's talk to me about the importance of why we should add that alt text.
Well,
and you do sound like a Dalek again, by the way.
Oh my god. Exterminate.
It should be me with all this vaping I'm doing that speaks like that. I'm sure it will be.
I'm just going to switch out the mic again.
No worries.
Should be better now.
Perfect. Yeah.
Cool. So yeah, the reason, I mean, alt text is something that's like so simple relatively, right? But yet so important. Because, well, first of all, if you're using a screen reader, like you're not going to be, it's just going to tell you this is an image, this is an element. It doesn't tell you, you can't, there's no other way to like know what information is there. And there are some pretty serious cases of like the post itself might not have anything useful. It's the actual image, the infographics, and all these posts. It's in all the information is in the actual image, so it's super important that the alt text is there. Or even if like whatever platform it is doesn't have good support for alt text, you can put the text in the actual caption or the description of the post.
Yeah, you see, you taught me that yesterday. Put image at the bottom and then write your description. Yeah,
that's like, at least like if you're using a screen reader, you can tell that this is the information that's there. And beyond that, it's just good practice to make sure that even like the information in the infographics or the images can be gotten without having to be able to see the images. It's just about thinking of, like, before making a post, forming those habits to say, I'm going to check if I have the alt texts, and the alt texts are not just there to fulfill the requirements of having alt text. It's there. It has the
ticking. Yeah,
exactly. It's like it has to have the information, and it has to be useful, right? And then also with things like video as well, live caption. I mean, not live captions because it's video; it's already recorded. Like, captions are important because, for people who are deaf or hard of hearing, you need that, right? There's also what's it called? Video, audio descriptions. So, say like in a video, it might not just be like what's being said that conveys information. There might be things that are happening, like actions, or
it could be mood music as well, isn't it? To set the tone, the music.
Yeah, there's that as well. So something describing what's actually happening, and not just relying on only what's being said, because that could make the difference between having 30% to having 90% of, or even 100% of the information that's being conveyed. There's also something I wanted to touch on. It's like how accessibility affects security, right? If you don't have accessibility, if you're not accessible, you are exposing yourself and your organization to security risks, because we talked about security awareness, right? If you're not covering everyone, then that doesn't meet the requirements, even from a compliance perspective. That's a risk. But also, like, with things like our security measures, some security measures can be very detrimental to accessibility and usability, right? If you make it impossible for people to do things securely, they're going to do it insecurely. They have no other choice, right? Especially when it comes to like necessities, like you have to work, you have to access your online bank accounts, you have to access NHS, right? Like, a lot of these things are going online, and people, if people can't independently access these things, they're going to be vulnerable, not just from a cyber security perspective, but also from like their physical safety. A lot of people with disabilities are usually also, in vulnerable situations. They might be facing abuse, and imagine having an abusive partner, for instance, and you can't access any of your essential services without them helping you. That's like, that's just making things worse. So it's also like there's so many different dimensions to this that we can't discuss in this short time we have. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to link lots of different. I'm going to send this lots of different resources. If anyone's interested, just read it.
Do that. Drop some in, and I'm just going to bring up a few comments because we've had some, and I'm going to move you to the top because these comments will cut off half of your face. So, first one is from our friend Justin, who personally asks everyone on this call moving forward to make sure that they use alt text when posting images on LinkedIn, and if not, use the post itself to provide a description of the image. And Joe Wells jumped in afterwards with regards to that, asking whereabouts on the post would you put that? I think he said, where is it? I've lost it now. Would you put that under the hashtags on LinkedIn? I mean, does it matter where it is? Would you say it's buried under the hashtags and no one's going to see that? I'd probably move it above the hashtags.
For me, I would probably put it above the hashtags.
Yeah. Okay. No, I completely agree. Hold on, what else have we got? I'm sure there was another comment. We've got Policy Wizard, Mr. Stewart in the house. Thank you very much for joining in. I mean, it might be worth talking about how accessibility is around policies as well, because, when you're enrolled or when you start your new career or start your new job at a business, you have an awful
Yeah.
lot of policy documentation and rules and regulations to go through. Are
Yeah.
companies doing that right, Aliyu?
No, I haven't seen it as something that's been considered as a priority, like widespread. Right. Yes, I know of some companies that are very deliberate about this. Justin himself is he's like making efforts. Where he's currently working as a director of security. But what I'll say is for policies, right? It's like apart from it's probably in like PDF or in a document format, right? Like, of course, if there's an image or a chart or a figure, of course you should have alt text with that. But what also helps is like the language in policies can be very
hard work.
Yeah, like
dry, painful.
Yeah,
boring.
Painful. That's the word. So something Justin has suggested on multiple occasions is to have a cognitive summary. I think that's what he said for every like section or clause, so that someone can read that and say, okay, I understand what this policy means, and it's like, thank you very much, this is so easy, you've made my life easier, and I'm now more likely to follow the policy accurately.
And actually comprehend it as well. And I've got
exactly
I struggle reading large documents. I get overwhelmed with large amounts of text, and I'm very reliant on an executive summary of everything. If I haven't got an executive summary, I don't take any of it in. We've only got a few minutes left, and I've seen a couple of questions come in. So here we go. Stuart, policy wizard. Policy wizard, policy. Stuart, we're going to have to get you back on this show to talk about what you're doing at some point. Let's catch up soon. But Prashant has said, how do we integrate accessibility then into policy documents? I mean, I think you've answered a few bits of that. The synopsis, maybe making the font a bigger size and more clear.
Justin made a good point there. Every section should have a cognitive summary until the whole policy can be made consumable by all of the organization, and that's the important bit. It needs to be consumable by everyone that needs to read it.
And in that case, then, would you say sometimes, and Stuart might jump in on this, sometimes we need different policy wording and different written policies for different departments as well?
Maybe I don't know. I think Stuart will be able to answer that question.
Yeah,
much better.
I think that's kind of moving away from the accessibility piece and more about the relevancy piece around making sure the right people have the right information in the right context, because the difference between people working in different departments is massive, and having that one size fits all approach for each one for me is pretty crap.
Yeah, and that's important. That's another important point. Flexibility is like so important, right? Because let's look at MFA, for instance. There are so many different MFA methods that would be inaccessible for different groups of people, right? But it's not about selecting a particular method that would be made accessible for everyone, right? So that would be very difficult to do. You can still have the same level of security, but be flexible in like how that can be implemented, or how people can access that. So if this is a problem, you can show that the more flexible it is, the more choices and options people have, the less likely you would be to have people that are excluded.
I completely agree. And Stuart, it's nice to hear that I'm right for once. If you could just let my wife know that has finally happened at some point in my life, that could be a moment of celebration. I'm going to have to wrap things up there because I've got my 14-year-old son waiting outside his running training for me to come and pick him up, and it is dark here in the UK. But Aliyu, I think we should probably continue this maybe in a couple of weeks' time, get you back on. And how about we grab a few people and have 5 or 6 of us on a live stream all talking about accessibility? Justin, I'm sure you jump in. Stuart, maybe you'd like to come and join in from a policy writing point of view. And Aliyu, if there's any of your co-founders from CyBlack or any other organizations that you know who might be interested, let's keep the momentum going on the accessibility front. It's a super important message, I think, for everyone. And it's something that we all need to pay a bit more attention to. And as Aliyu said earlier on, and I think I used the same words, putting yourself in other people's shoes when you're creating policies, when you're building tools, when you're putting anything together, start to think about everyone else. I mean, I know as a world, we're pretty crap at thinking about everyone else at the moment, but the only way we're going to make this inclusive for everyone is to start putting ourselves in other people's shoes. So you said you were going to put some links.
And talk to them as well. Like talk to people. Like the more you talk to people from different backgrounds, different with different abilities, you get better perspective. I'm sorry for cutting you there, but yeah, I'll send a couple of links.
Yeah, drop the links. I'm going to drop your website in here. So there's the link to Fezzant. If anyone wants to take a look at what Aliyu's doing there. And the next one, I'm trying to copy and paste as he drops them in, is a link to the NCSC government site here in the UK, talking about accessibility as a cybersecurity priority. I think that's a post, maybe. Is there another one coming?
This is it's an article from Fezzant blog written by Emily Kale, our new accessibility advocate. Really good read. Of course, I'll say that.
You sound like a Dalek again, by the way. So on that note, exterminate. Now, on that note, let's wrap things up. Please do come back in a week or two. I've got plenty of space in the studio the next couple of weeks. Again, if anyone wants to be a guest on this show, I'm starting a new show beginning not next week after, called Cyber's Got Talent, where, very original, I know, don't stop mocking me for the name, where I'm going to showcase people who are looking for work. So even if you're a CISO or if you're looking to break into the industry, it doesn't matter. If you want the opportunity to showcase yourself in front of 7,500 subscribers for free, send me a message through the community or drop me a message on LinkedIn and let's get that organized. I've just noticed there's one more link that we've dropped in. Aliyu, do you want to explain? Then the mocking, Jonathan, I'm sure it will commence, seeing as I've been mocking your clotted cream shortage all day. What was the last link you put in there, Aliyu?
That's a link to one of the first articles. One of the first things I read relating to security is it's called Accessibility and Inclusive Cybersecurity, a nuanced and complex challenge. So it deals with lots of different things, from like a human perspective, how it makes vulnerable, not just in the cyber world, in their personal lives. It goes through like all those different dimensions. So I would definitely recommend reading through that.
Brilliant. I'll take a look when I get back this evening. I'm just going to bring one last comment up before I go, because Prashant has just thought of the best idea for another show, and it's going to be Cyber Dates with Scylla Simon. For anyone in the UK, anyone in the US, there was a program called Blind Date hosted by a lady called CyBlack a long time ago, where she matchmaked people. So maybe that is an idea, although I think we might be getting on dodgy ground there, Prashant, but we'll have a chat about that. But again, Aliyu, thank you so much for your time. Everyone in the chat, again, these streams are insightful for two reasons. One, the amazing guests, and two, the amazing engagement from you guys, girls and people in the chat. So thank you so much for that. We're back in the studio tomorrow at 5 p.m. British Summer Time, which I think is 12 o'clock Eastern, where we're talking about the challenges of an SMB CISO. I think some SMB CISOs out there feel a little bit ignored by some of the bigger vendors in the industry. So we're going to have a dig in and have a whinge about that tomorrow. So if you're about, please join us. Aliyu, have an amazing evening, everyone.
Thanks.
Take care. See you soon.